We all know that Kenya is the country of the Maasai, of the famous marathon runners of the Olympic Games, or of the Masai Mara National Reserve. But in this video, you're going to learn about some interesting, informative, and sometimes little-known facts about Kenya. I invite you to watch this video until the end to learn 10 interesting facts about Kenya. Now, before we begin, if you're new to the channel, subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our new videos. Let's get into it. Polygamy is legal in Kenya. In Kenya, polygamy is a common, and even some wives, especially those without children, readily encourage their husband to take another wife. It was in 2014 when a new law came into force in Kenya, allowing a man to marry as many women as he wanted, and a prominent group of women applauded this with joy. It was President Uhuru Kenyatta himself who signed the polygamy measure, officially recognizing what has long been a cultural practice in the country. The parliament passed the bill in March 2014, despite protests from lawmakers who angrily left the late-night session at the time. The bill initially gave the first wife the right to veto the husband's choice of additional wives. Male MPs succeeded in knocking down this clause. Some Kenyans have suggested that lawmakers also consider polyandry, a practice that allows wives to take on multiple husbands. Others have speculated that lawmakers may also legalize beating women in the future. According to Al Jazeera, although it is difficult to find studies on the impact of polygamy on families in Kenya, at the international level, there's growing evidence showing that polygamy affects children and wives economically, socially, and psychologically. Country of the most famous athletes. Kenyan marathon runners are world famous. They have consistently hoisted the Kenyan flag high during the Olympics and international marathons. There are notable Kenyan names that have become synonymous with these breeds both locally and internationally. Some notable names are Eliud Kipchoge, Tegla Lorupe, Henry Wanyoike, Wilson Rita, and many others. Eliud Kipchoge is the most famous athlete in the country and in the world. His most recent success was to run a 42-kilometer marathon in less than 2 hours. It happened in Vienna, in Austria in 2019. Tegla Chepkite Lorupe is a former Kenyan track athlete and road runner. She is also the global spokesperson for peace, women's rights, and education. Henry Wanyoike was 21 when he suffered a stroke that caused him to lose 95% of his eyesight. That hasn't stopped him from being one of the fastest runners in the world. He shone at 5,000 and 10,000 meters. Wilson Kipsang became a professional international athlete in 2007. The same year, he finished second at the Tilburg 10 miles with a time of 46 minutes 27 seconds. This was followed by another victory in a road race at Ham. His time of 27 minutes 51 seconds was the fourth fastest that year in the 10-kilometer race. Rita Jeptu is another famous Kenyan marathon runner. Her first personal best was 2 hours 23 minutes and 38 seconds in the 2006 Boston Marathon. She has won the Boston Marathon 3 times, most notably setting the course record at 2 hours 18 minutes 57 seconds in 2014. The first African woman to win a Nobel Prize was Kenyan. Wangari Maathai, Kenyan politician and environmental activist, was the first African woman to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. She was also the first female academic in East and Central Africa to earn a doctorate in biology and the first female professor in her home country, Kenya. Maathai played an active role in the struggle for democracy in Kenya and belonged to the opposition to the Daniel Arap Moi regime. In 1977, she launched a popular movement aimed at countering deforestation, which threatened the livelihoods of the agricultural population. The campaign encouraged women to plant trees in their local environment and to think ecologically. The Green Belt movement has spread to other African countries and has helped plant over 30 million trees. Maathai's mobilization of African women was not limited in her vision of working for sustainable development. She saw tree planting from a broader perspective that included democracy, women's rights, and international solidarity. In her acceptance speech, for the Nobel Prize, she said, "There can be no peace without equitable development, and there can be no development without sustainable management of the environment in a democratic and peaceful space." In 2006, she released her autobiography, Unbowed, and in 2009, she shared her perspective on the challenges African nations face in sustainable governance and how they can be overcome in her book, The Challenge for Africa. On September 25, 2011, she passed away at the age of 71 after fighting a long battle with ovarian cancer. Jambo is the most common greeting. In Kenya, verbal greetings vary among different ethnic groups. The most common greeting among those who speak Swahili is Jambo, which would mean hello. This greeting can be answered with the phrase Sijambo, which means I'm fine. Other greetings common in contemporary Kenya include Sasa or Mambo. The typical response to these greetings is Poa, a more casual way of saying fine. When Kenyans greet each other, they often learn about each other's family and well-being. The most typical gesture when greeting is a handshake. It is expected that you shake hands with everyone present. For example, if you walk into a room with 10 people, it is common for you to take the time to greet each one by verbally greeting them and shaking their hands. Supporting the right forearm with the left hand while shaking their hands demonstrates respect for an elder or a person of higher social status. Verbal greetings are usually given before the handshake. If two people are waving and one of the person's handshake is not clean, they can politely choose to grab the other's arm at the elbow rather than their hand. This is done as a courtesy. Men can greet other men with a handshake and a hug if they have a close friendship. Between women, a handshake is appropriate in most social situations. However, good friends and family will often exchange a hug and a light kiss on the cheek. The Maasai Shuka is the traditional Kenyan fabric. The Maasai Shuka is a traditional fabric native to East Africa worn by the Maasai people, mainly in Kenya and Tanzania. Shuka Maasai is a cotton plaid fabric, blanket form in bright red and blue colors. The Maasai are a semi-nomadic people of East Africa who are known for their unique way of life as well as their cultural traditions and customs. They are renowned as great warriors who hunt for food in the wild savanna. For their clothes, red is the most common color, but the Maasai also use blue striped clothes to wrap their bodies. Maasai men and women wear the traditional Shuka dress. It is known to be durable, strong and thick. This fabric protects the Maasai against the weather and the terrain of the savanna. Many designers have been inspired by Shuka Maasai to make original clothes in bright colors. We can first mention the Nigerian brand Blackbird Jeans, which made a collection with this traditional fabric in 2011. Then, in 2012, the famous Louis Vuitton brand created a spring-summer collection. The artistic director Kim Jones wanted to pay tribute to his childhood spent in Kenya. Finally, the Kenyan clothing brand One Fan Clothing made clothes and accessories from the Shuka fabric. They are located in Nairobi, and this brand was created by brothers Jeff and Emmanuel Wanjala to pay tribute to the Maasai culture of Kenya. They transformed this traditional garment into trendy urban chic clothing. Kenya is home to the Masai Mara, located in southwestern Kenya, covering an area of 1,510 square kilometers or 583 square miles. The Masai Mara National Reserve is a land of breathtaking views, abundant wildlife, and endless plains. The quintessential Masai Mara safari offers many attractions, as the reserve is home to an excellent concentration of game year-round, including over 2 million wildebeest, zebras, and other antelopes that make up the famous Great Migration. The reserve is a photographer's and naturalist paradise, with numerous elephants, buffaloes, giraffes, lions, and cheetahs alongside migrating wildebeest and zebras. Leopards are frequently encountered. Endangered black rhinos lurk in the dense thickets, and large rafts of hippos and huge crocodiles can be found in the Mara River. The park is also home to over 450 species of birds. The reserve has been voted one of the new 7 wonders of the world. Regarding the origin of the name, the word Maasai comes from the Maasai tribe, nomadic inhabitants of the region, and the word Mara is the word for stained, referring to the acacias, shrubs, and bushes at the top. The Masai Mara now also includes a number of conservatories and collective ranches lining the main reserve and is home to some of the most diverse species of African wildlife. Kenya is multilingual. Over 60 different languages are indigenous to Kenya. The official languages are English, which is widely spoken at a high level in the tourism industry, and Kiswahili, an East African lingua franca that originated from the coast and spread inland along trade routes in the early 19th century. The other main languages are Kikuyu, Luo, Akamba, and Ma. Most of the languages spoken locally belong to two major linguistic families, Niger-Congo and Nilo-Saharan, respectively, spoken by the Bantu and Nilotic populations of the country. Cushitic and Arabic ethnic minorities speak languages belonging to the distinct Afro-Asian family, with Hindustani and British resident speaking languages of the Indo-European family. Kenya's various ethnic groups generally speak their native languages with their own communities. Both official languages are used to varying degrees to communicate with other populations. English is widely spoken in business, schools, and government. Almost 100% of Kenya's population can speak Swahili. Agriculture is an important part of the country's economy. Agriculture dominates the Kenyan economy, accounting for 40% of the total labor force, 70% of the rural labor force, and about 25% of the annual labor force. The country's main agricultural exports are tea, coffee, cut flowers, and vegetables. Kenya is the world's largest exporter of black tea and cut flowers. Kenya's high rainfall areas constitute about 10% of Kenya's arable land and produce 70% of its national commercial agricultural production. Farmers in semi-arid regions produce around 20% of production, while arid regions account for the remaining 10%. Productivity remains relatively low in all regions due to weak incentives and underdevelopment of infrastructure and support institutions. Since 2013, Kenya has undertaken agricultural sector reforms that are expected to boost growth. A new regulatory framework resulting from the consolidation and harmonization of sectoral laws is being implemented. Although Kenya continues to face supply shortages in most of its food sectors, the country continues to use the instruments of the Common Market for East and Southern Africa and EAC agreement to limit food imports. The land of art and festival. Kenya celebrates a number of national and regional events and festivals throughout the year, usually related to religion, historical events, or African arts. Music, food, and dancing feature prominently in celebrations, which typically focus on family, community, and unity. In March of each year, Nairobi hosts the East African Art Festival, the largest of its kind in the region, which attracts competitors and spectators from all over the world. The three-day event showcases art, music, theater, fashion, literature, architecture, sculpture, and traditional crafts. It is hosted by the National Museum of Kenya. In addition, in November, the city of Mombasa celebrates Kenyan culture with a carnival by the Indian Ocean. Artists, dancers, musicians, and indigenous people flock to participate in the concerts, which are one of Kenya's biggest annual events. One of the main characteristics is the main street parade, with floats that showcase the various tribal identities across the country. There are street stalls and opportunities to eat, drink, and dance. Not to mention the Jamhuri Day, which means Republic Day in Swahili, and December 12th is reserved as a public holiday to celebrate the transformation of Kenya into a republic in 1964. The date is all the more important as the country gained independence from Great Britain on December 12, 1963. Many cities also host cultural performances, while families often get together for meals. Fireworks are often a highlight, and air shows have become popular in modern times. There are also Easter, Christmas, New Year, and Muslim Eid. Ugali is a staple meal. Before the 19th century, Sorghum and millet were the main grains produced and consumed in Kenya. Maize, the main ingredient in ugali, was introduced to the region by Portuguese traders. It was originally produced for export, but was eventually adopted by the locals, who turned it into a simple and nutritious porridge called ugali. Today, ugali is a staple of the Kenyan diet, consumed daily by many. It is usually served as a side dish, and it goes perfectly well with stew, curries, or vegetarian dishes. Locals along the coast and around Lake Victoria enjoy it with fish. Ugali is also served with nyama choma, which is grilled meat, and kachumbari, a salad of tomatoes and onions. One of the easiest dishes to prepare is not only high in fiber, but also a good source of carbohydrates, minerals, and vitamin B. If you are visiting Kenya, don't be surprised to see locals eating ugali with their hands. Here we are at the end of our video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something new about Kenya today. Would you like to visit Kenya? Let us know in the comments area. With that, folks, we hope to see you again soon in our new videos. Bless.